With the Dawnseeker, as I had mentioned, some of the melodies actually had been written several years prior, and I had gone to law school. Even before that, I actually had lived in Dublin and had gone to school there for my master's. I had written, actually Fire from Heaven was written there from the first album, and I had written some other melodies. And eventually just reached a point where I had met Israel Curtis before moving to Dublin. And I got on well with him. I was in a songwriting class, and a friend of his was in the same class, and he was beginning to kind of develop all of his skills. And so when I got into law school, I started thinking I really need to record something because I want to do more than just kind of write songs for myself. And I felt that there was something I wanted to share with people and hope that they would maybe have some emotional connection to it, or find it something that affected them or moved them. And so I finished up some songs. I had a good 12-15 songs recorded, actually on, well, things, this Korg right here, this Trinity that I still use as my MIDI input. So I had written these songs. I ended up dumping them over at Israel's, and he was kind of the master at Logic, and so we took the tracks, finessed some of them, and then I think the first person that I communicated with was Jody Quine. Really liked her work on the Ballet Gomingo album, and thought she had a real beautiful voice, and that I wanted to work with her, and so contacted her. She kind of took a risk, I guess, and decided to come out. We recorded Eurydice and Tenuous, and excuse me, Kiss to Savor was the other song, and was really happy. I couldn't believe it when I heard kind of the music with the vocals. And at the same time, around the same time I was communicating with someone who works with Harland, Darren Brindle, and he said, you know, do a song with her if you want to, and I can put you in touch with her. She was really sweet, and so we did Desire of Ages, and it kind of just progressed. There were certain artists that I really wanted to work with musically, and Caroline LaBelle, obviously a big fan of hers, Kirsty Hawkshaw, Christy Thirsk. There were just a whole bunch of artists that I'd liked, owned their music, and was actually a fan of their music and wanted to work with. So progressively that album, you know, was finished, and it took over 3 years. I think it was 3.5 years to finish the Dawnseeker. I was doing little previews online, just kind of on my own little small website, and people started responding to it and really liked it, and were very positive and very excited. And so I think word kind of spread that way. And it was nice because when the album was about ready, I had been in communication with Troy over at Neurodisc Records, and he had talked to me and said, hey Justin, before you sign, I really want you to talk with Tom O'Keefe, who owns the label. And so they had heard kind of some of the preliminary music and were very supportive and positive, and so it was kind of just natural. I signed a record deal with Neurodisc, and that relationship has been extremely positive. You know, just great support from them and excitement from them. So I think that's kind of the arc of how things went. And then the album came out, and as always, you know, you're not sure whether it's going to do anything, or if anyone's going to pay attention or listen. And so it was obviously gratifying and exciting when people began to respond. And I found it particularly, I think the most interesting thing was to hear the responses from people with certain songs that were affecting people emotionally. I've had emails from people, you know, one guy, for example, he was in the Marines in Iraq during the war, and he was saying how they would listen to the music, that album, and he would play it for other members in his group, and they would really love the music, how it kind of took them out of some of the stress of their situation. And then I've had a couple people write me who were in really bad places, I think emotionally and spiritually, and have said that the music really helped them, pull them back from, you know, suicidal thoughts and difficult situations. And it comes from all over the world, and so you don't initially, you know, writing, you don't plan or think that someone is going to respond that way. You know, obviously the music means a great deal to me, and a lot of my emotion comes into the songs, and things that are affecting me, literature I'm reading, situations, people in my life, things, aspirations, some things that are private that you don't speak about maybe as much, but you do through the music. All those things go into creating a song for me. And so when people respond and feel that back, it's a little strange, but in a really positive way. And it's very moving and very encouraging, and it makes you feel like that, with this kind of unspoken type of communication through music, that people, no matter where they're from, or their religion or race or background or their lives or wherever they're from, that there's something there that is affecting them and having an effect on them. And that is really humbling, and it's really inspiring as well. And that, more than anything, makes you want to continue doing the music and to have that to share with people, I think. The title of the album comes from one of the songs, which is the title track, Labyrinthine Heart. Jody Quine sings it. And the idea came from, actually has reference to myth, Greek myth, which on the DAWNSEEKER there were several songs that had references, either explicit or implied, to Greek mythology. Eurydice, obviously, and Fire from Heaven, that kind of has a Promethean reference. And then there's also in Caroline Lavelle's on the Nightjar, there's a little bit of a reference to Theseus and the Maze. And so on this album, it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision, but Labyrinthine Heart, just the concept appealed to me a lot, because I think it's a very apt way of describing kind of the human condition, and how most people have a lot of hidden recesses and corridors and aspects of their personality and inside their heart, and some of us are easy to access emotionally, and some of us aren't for various reasons. So it's really about hoping that you find someone in your life that will eventually be able to navigate those aspects of who you are, and with your weaknesses and with your insecurities or your character flaws, will still find a way kind of to the center of who you are and be rooted there. And it's also about trying not to let those things create bar for people, because I think a lot of times what we do is, even though we want that type of emotional connection, we don't let people in because we fear allowing that type of access for whatever reason. So that's kind of the underlying philosophical concept. And obviously there's, in the song itself, the lyrics have a reference to the story of Theseus, which I've always loved, the myth. I think it's one of the most amazing stories. And it's a little bit about freeing yourself from those things. Interestingly enough, one of their tracks on the album, the new album, is called Ariadne, The Dividing Sea, which is a Joanna Stevens song. And that track is actually taken from the perspective of Ariadne, who was Theseus' love interest in the myth, and a real tragic story. And she was she was the daughter of the king, and she basically betrayed her people and helped Theseus solve the labyrinth. And he ended up actually abandoning her on an island, and after all she did, he kind of left her to be alone. So it's a pretty sad story. Love the sad stories, the tragedies. But that's what Labyrinthine Heart, I think, is kind of about, both on a more obvious level and maybe on a less obvious level.